So I wanted to take a deep dive. I kept thinking to myself, Lord, where did all this come from? All this gender identity nonsense. For your word declares that you made male and female. You created them. That was from the very beginning. When the Pharisees tried to trap Jesus in regards to divorce, he said, have you not heard? In the beginning, God made male and female. He created them. So where did this come from? And why now? Why like it seems like it just came upon us all of a sudden? Or did it? Or have we been being groomed for it for quite some time? So when did it all begin, this identity foolery? Me being Generation X, I know I didn't experience it. Nobody could ever fathom that a man could be a woman or a woman could be a man, or we would even be having this conversation. People would have laughed at this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, so on and so forth. But now it's being written into law. It's being pushed upon children in schools. You have governors like Tim Walz that are fighting for it. You have men wearing woman face outside of restrooms declaring that I'm a woman. What is this? And how on earth did it come to be? It's kind of like a little amber in California that eventually turned into a full-blown wildfire. They like to say, well, it's only 1%. But 1% of the population has turned our world upside down. We're going to talk about this today, and we're going to dive deep. Coffee with Miss Miller starts right now. Hi, I am Speak Your Voice First here on TikTok and YouTube. And welcome to my teaching of transgenderism, historical timeline, and biblical response. So when did gender ideology start? It's not what you think. This, in fact, goes way back. So let's talk about transgenderism and how we got here. Early foundations. We can go as way back as 1860s, but we're going to start with about the 1940s, and then we're going to move into the mid 20th century. So are you guys ready to dive in? I know I am. We're going to talk about pivotal shifts in the 1950s and 60s, the 70s, and the 90s. So let's dive in with the 1950s first, and look who we have here. So John Hopkins University opens the first U.S. gender identity clinic. Psychologists like Dr. John Money began promoting gender identity as separate from biological sex. This is where the language shift began, redefining male and female as feelings and not biology. While the rest of the world was going about their daily life, Dr. John Money had already planted the seed. In the 1960s and 70s, gender theory spread across psychology and university research. Early sex reassignment surgeries are tested at John Hopkins and other hospitals. While you're asleep in your beds, they're doing reassignment surgeries at John Hopkins, allegedly. Ex-feminists and LGBTQ movements introduced the ideal of gender as a social construct. And then we get into the Hollywood era. In the 1980s and 90s, Hollywood movies such as A Kid Like Jake planted a seed. And of course, we know who this is, Tyler Perry as Medea. He went in heavily on the church, and the church accepted it due to laughter. Oh, how we were bewitched. And then we have the acceleration era and mainstream culture and law from 2010 to 2020. Then the catalyst behind much of it was the election of President Barack Obama. Indeed, packed the courts with liberal judges to get gay marriage passed. Wasn't playing with us anymore. They were moving in for the jugular. The case, Obergefell versus Hodges. It became the nail in the coffin. Gay marriage passed and the LGBTQ plus was empowered. Obama lit up the White House in rainbow colors, and then transgenderism and woke ideology was pushed in schools upon the kids. Mainstream acceptance happened in the 2010s. In 2015, the Obama administration directs schools to allow transgender students access to bathrooms and sports teams matching their gender identity. Media celebrates high-profile transitions such as Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner. The Born This Way narrative dominates education, entertainment, and governmental policy. 2020, full legal enforcement. School, corporations, and even churches face penalties for misgendering. Medical clinics fast-track puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries even for minors. Parent risks losing custody if they don't affirm a child's chosen identity. Title IX and other federal programs redefine sex to include gender identity. So in other words, it was forced on you whether you liked it or not. They didn't care about your religious beliefs. They didn't care about your faith. They didn't care about your moral convictions. It was their way or the highway, allegedly. The biblical anchor here is throughout these cultural and legal shifts, God's word remains unchanged. Genesis 1:27, male and female, he created them. Matthew 19:4, Jesus confirms God's original design. Romans 1 warns us about exchanging God's truth for lies. The Bible provides the unchanging foundation to navigate these times. If you don't know by now, you should know. This is not a cultural issue. This is spiritual warfare. It has been a slow push to dismantle the very identity of humanity, to dismantle God's design. And this push was very calculated, and it was done over time. Understand that the devil will take all the time he needs as long as what he wants gets accomplished. We have never heard of such a thing. Since the very beginning of time, a man could be a woman and a woman can be a man. It doesn't matter if a surgeon cuts it off. It doesn't matter if a person gets hormonal injections. That's not what makes you a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you wear makeup or a wig. It doesn't matter if you have a surgically enhanced breast, or if you cut off your breast. That does not make you a man or a woman. It's your DNA. It is what God designed you to be. It's XX or XY, and you can't change that. Men and women try to change what God has called it is good. But what they're doing is trying to mess with God's design. And one thing you cannot do is mess with God's design because it is good. But they tried. And now we have all this delusion and confusion. We literally have 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 around verses 9 through 10. For this cause, God has given them over to strong delusions because they rather the lie than the truth, that their souls may be saved. The enemy is in fact on the move, and he's moving fast because he has but a short time. The enemy has 3 jobs: to kill, to steal, and to destroy. And he loves to attack the most innocent, the youth. But Jesus gives a stern warning, for it is better that a millstone be hung around your neck and you cast into the sea than you mess with one of these little ones. And that is a stern warning. Don't touch the children. Don't mess with the children. They have been attacking the children in schools, confusing them, trying to have their minds diluted with lies. You see, whenever they are young, this is when a child is most impressionable. That's why Jesus says you must receive the kingdom as a little child, because a little child will believe. A little child will believe what you say. And if you're leaning in and telling them that their pronouns are he and him, and really it's her and she, then they will believe you. If you're telling them that they could be a boy rather than a girl in which God created them, then they will believe you. And this is why the enemy is kicking so hard for the schools to have this woke ideology, this gender confusion, because they know the devil knows if he can get them young, and he has captured an entire generation. And if you could dumb down a generation, then you could take over. You can have control. This should never be. This should never be. And the church, the body of Christ, needs to be praying against this wicked and evil agenda. They say you hate. This is not hate. You hate someone when you lie to them, when you refuse to tell them the truth. If I put on a Superman costume and went to jump off a mountain because I said I can fly because I'm Superman, will you allow me to jump and harm myself? It's a lie. I could never fly. I'm not Superman. But will you allow me to harm myself? Or will you try to talk me off the ledge and reaffirm to me that I am not Superman, but I am just a regular human being without the capability of flying? Well, that's the same thing with this gender ideology push, this transgenderism. When you tell a boy that he could be a girl, you're lying to them and you're doing them a disservice, and you're going to hurt them in the long run. I've heard testimony after testimony about people that have transitioned, that wants to transition back, and they can stop taking the hormones. But if they got their private area cut off, well, that's just too late. Having to use dilators to keep the hole in that area open if they want to be a female. How diabolical is that? And doing it to children who say 1 minute they want to be this, and then the next minute change their mind. When I was a little child, I wanted to be this and I wanted to be that, but I changed my mind so often. The brain is still developing. I seen a 3-year-old being dressed up as a little girl when he in fact was a little boy. And the parents said, well, he said he wanted to be a girl. A 3-year-old. This is satanic. This is demonic. And it must be put to a stop. This is not a social thing. It's not a civil rights thing. This is a heaven or hell thing. This is in fact spiritual warfare. Love does not equate agreement. If you love someone, you tell them the truth. You say God is love, right? Well, the Bible tells me Jesus is truth. So Jesus came with grace and truth. We give people grace, of course, but we never, ever, ever not give them truth. The only ones hollering that truth is hate are the ones that's doing the devil's bidding. Wake up, church. Wake up. God bless you. I love you. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again. This was Speak Your Voice First on TikTok and YouTube. God bless.